Okay, so in this video, we're gonna talk about two very common tips that I give when teaching the deadlift, specifically the Romanian deadlift, which is what we tend to teach here at Mission Move when we're getting into deadlifting again with lots of our patients. And these two tips are, one is I call the tip of timing, and the other one I call the third femur tip. Yeah, I bet everyone wants to know what that is. And I'm gonna use the goniometer, that's official physical therapy measuring tool. Okay, so Nadine's gonna demonstrate for us. So go ahead and put the bar like this, like you're doing a deadlift, okay? So one of the things that I'm looking for when teaching someone to deadlift is good timing. And what I mean by that is you should look like your angle of your, so if I put my goniometer on here, the angle of your femur and your spine, especially in the beginning stages, should match each other. So if not done great, then if you did a deadlift where just the spine moved, so go ahead and go down, like don't bend your knees as much, right? So then you see here, stop, the angles don't quite match each other. She's far more flexed at the spine than she is with the femur, okay? Now, let's see, let's say you bend your knees more than your hip, then you can see she's actually doing more of like a squat, okay? So a proper deadlift, the timing is gonna be the same, and that means that these angles should sort of match each other straight from the get-go, because what we want our patients to think about, or what you should be thinking about when doing the deadlift, is just bringing your hips back. And if you're just bringing your hips back, then those two should match each other. So go ahead and let's see what a good deadlift looks like. Good, stop. So then you can see that she's basically matching the femur and the spine together, right? And so this shouldn't change throughout the deadlift except for at the very bottom. So go ahead and keep going, bring that bar past your knees. There you'll see that the top end speeds up just a little bit and to get the bar a little bit lower. And that's typically what we'll see. But up until that last little bit, these two should match each other, and the person going up and down in their deadlift should almost look just like an oil rig, right? Where it's like, it's just a very mechanical machine movement. I guess mechanical and machine are the same thing, but you know what I mean. And so, yeah, just going up and down like it's a machine, that there's not as much variability there, and that one isn't going too fast. Because if you find that you're going this, that's a squat, this, you're doing almost like a straight leg deadlift type thing, and that's a whole different thing. So that's the first tip, is timing. The second tip is the third femur. So what I mean by the third femur is we always talk about hip hinging and having the only movement to be at the hip joint, okay? What we don't want with a deadlift is there to be movement in the spine. And so to make the spine rigid, you have to have a bit of lordosis in here at the spine, so the spine's curved in. The erector spinae muscles are locking the vertebrae together. And so essentially what I think about is like, we know the femur's down here, that's not gonna bend, the bottom part of the deadlift, but the top part, we wanna turn that into another femur, femur number 3, so that this is completely locked in, so that the pivoting just occurs right here at the hip joint. Now, I'll have Nadine demonstrate what it looks like not to have a locked in femur. So as she goes down, she'll then get to a point where then that bends, right? That's what we don't want. So come back up. And then what I want you to do, another way we achieve this is by telling people to feel like they're bending the bar. So go ahead and act like you're bending the bar. She takes her lats, locks in her lats here on either side. She's accentuating a little bit of the lordosis of her back to lock the spine together. So all three of these components are working together. Now as she goes through her deadlift with her spine locked in, we don't see any variability in the movement of her spine. The only pivot point is around the hip joint. So those are just two common cues that I give. And I mean, the deadlift, it can be a hard lift or movement to learn. There's a lot of moving pieces and they're kind of subtle, but having taught it so much, these are two of the cues that we tend to find that work fairly well, and having people understand why it is they're doing the movement in a specific way. So if you're learning the deadlift or learning specifically a Romanian deadlift, which is going from the top down, think about those two cues as you learn to do it, and hopefully they will help you out.